Jury selection started today in a major trial for tech giant Meta in California. 4 U.S. states say the company engineered its platforms, Facebook and Instagram, to be addictive to children. The stakes are high. If found guilty, Meta could face up to $1.4 trillion in damages. The company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, is expected to testify at that trial. Journalist Ira Spitzer is outside the courthouse in Oakland. Ira, so what can you tell us about this trial and what prosecutors are actually looking to prove here?
So what these 4 states will be looking to establish is that the alleged harms that they say Meta's products, Facebook and Instagram, have caused to children and teenagers are not a side effect, but were actually intentional by the company because of the way that it designed its products. The states say that Meta designed Facebook and Instagram to keep young people hooked on the platform with features such as infinite scrolling, the like button features, and many other aspects of the product design, and that they did all this well knowing that their products were harmful to young people. Now, Meta has strongly rejected those allegations, so this will, of course, now all play out in front of this court here in Oakland, and the stakes couldn't be higher. You mentioned there that the states will be seeking $1.4 trillion in damages. That's almost the entire market value of Meta. Now, I don't think it's very likely that that full amount could be established as a penalty. However, it does show just the kind of legal peril overall that Meta is facing, not just here with this trial, but at similar trials that are likely to take place around the country.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about that. I mean, it's certainly not the first time we've heard these allegations made against Facebook, Instagram, Meta, the parent company, and not the first time that they have been brought to court, these similar claims. How does that play into this?
Well, exactly. This is part of a larger movement taking place where we do have these thousands of lawsuits underway and being prepared throughout the country, lawsuits from families, from school districts, from governments who say that the design of Meta's products is causing harm to children, and that they are asking for, in some cases, monetary damages or changes to the design of Meta's products. We saw a judgment just last week in the state of New Mexico where Meta was ordered to pay more than $500 million in damages because of the state's mental health crisis with young people there. So a very active issue here, of course, and what happens in this trial will certainly influence the way that the precedent is potentially set for other similar cases. So a lot at stake potentially when we see Meta executives like Mark Zuckerberg take the stand in the coming weeks.
Journalist Ira Spitzer in Oakland, California. Thank you. Okay, now to discuss what is really an historic lawsuit, I've got Eric Goldman. He's a law professor at Santa Clara University School of Law. Eric, thank you for your time. I mean, it's a big day because it's the start of something that could, I guess, potentially be very big. $1.4 trillion is a lot of money here. What are your thoughts on, I guess, day one?
Certainly with respect to the trial, as your reporter indicated, the stakes are enormous, both from a damages perspective, but also in terms of the possibility of a court ordering Meta to change how it operates. In either case, social media services might look very different in the future. That's what's really on trial in this case.
How significant is it that this is a unified effort, right? There's a coalition of states involved?
There are, I believe, 29 states that have piggybacked into this particular effort, but there are also parallel lawsuits taking place throughout the country. So from that perspective, I wouldn't call it unified, but it is definitely a coordinated effort with lots of different state AGs believing that they want to fix social media.
I mean, I was talking to Ira there, saying that this is not the first time we've heard these allegations. It has been a little difficult to prove that Meta may be causing significant harm to youth. How difficult in a court of law might that be?
It's quite difficult, in particular because there is no medical or psychological consensus that there's a condition called social media addiction. So in order for the case to proceed, the plaintiffs, in this case the state AGs, must establish as a legal proposition something that the medical community and the psychology community has not yet reached consensus about.
I mean, that said, we know Meta has recently lost similar lawsuits. Are we reaching maybe a turning point when it comes to this issue of protecting youth and the acceptance that social media companies could be doing harm?
We are at a turning point, but I think the way I'd frame the turning point is a little bit different. We are on the cusp of governments taking essentially full control over the editorial operations of social media services. They're deciding how those services operate, and they're going to ultimately decide how much money those services have to pay to their users. And that's going to change the ecosystem for everybody. And that turning point, I think, is taking place now. This trial might accelerate it.
I mean, from a legal perspective, from your position as a law professor, do you have concerns about the government getting involved? I mean, maybe not so much when it comes to youth, but social media and control of it on the part of government. I mean, where do you land on that?
Yeah, I have huge concerns. Here in the United States, we have the First Amendment, a constitutional protection for the freedom of speech and the press. And governments coming in and dictating how services should operate look a lot like censorship from a U.S. perspective. But I think, in addition, there is not a consensus that social media is categorically bad for its users. That is the argument that the state attorneys general are advancing, but that's not the reality. The science doesn't back that up. And I'm concerned that some social media users are going to be harmed by any changes that the government requires. So it's kind of like we can't really win. We can only make trade-offs between user communities.
Yeah, no, it is. It's it's an interesting back and forth in terms of that argument and where the rules need to potentially be and how they navigate that. But let me just finish with the $1.4 trillion, because I'm having a hard time getting my head around the idea that that is what is being sought. And what's the likelihood that Meta actually has to pay that amount?
I don't know if that number is tenable. It might be a little bit inflated, but it doesn't really matter to me. As your reporter indicated, it's almost a net worth of Meta. In other words, the state attorney's general position is that Meta as a company is worthless, that its value is near zero because of the harm it's causing. And I don't think that's the right positioning, but that's the positioning that the state AGs are taking.
Eric Goldman, a law professor at the Santa Clara University School of Law. Thank you very much.
Thank you.